everybody. As you can see, I am on a cruise inbound to Petra, Jordan. So for my next book review, I thought, why not take you guys on a trip with me to Petra? I mean, who doesn't want to visit one of the 7 wonders of the world? We're currently inbound to Petra, and the book that I will be reviewing today is called, well, the trilogy that I'll be reviewing today is called the Shadow and Bone Trilogy. And I thought of reading the last book. I'm already on the last book that I've been reading, Ruin and Rising. So I thought, why not review that today? However, I will be reviewing the first 2 books of the trilogy, Shadow and Bone, and also Siege and Storm, as I haven't been able to get around to reading this one. So I think we can head downstairs and we will continue there. So, I thought I'd get a quick bite to eat before we get into the book. So now that it's a lot quieter without the music blaring, I thought we'd have some peace and quiet where we can talk about the book as well as, you know, me getting some snacks. So let's find a table. So, take my mask off quickly. Shadow and Bone, what is it about? First of all, the setting. It is set in a, I guess you could say, World War II-esque era, where there is, you know, kingdoms are still around, and you are started off as, you can say, the main character, who is Alina Starkov, a lady in the First Army, which is the military force of the kingdom you were in, called Ravka. Now, the difference between, you know, any old military and Ravkan military is that certain Ravkan people have gifts. They have powers. They have the ability to control wind, water, fire, things like that. Hot? Anyway, got a little bit of fire in my mouth as well. So what is Ravka? So Ravka is one of the kingdoms in this setting. It's called, the entire world is called the Grishaverse. And the people with these powers are called Grisha, and they have the power to bend matter to their will, such as, you know, we have squatters who bend, you know, wind, fire, water, and people who can bend metal and skin, and, you know, some people work with human and organic things. So it's very similar to actually Avatar: The Last Airbender, except there's more branches to it. So now, what's the main plot? The main plot is that there is a big rift called the Unsea, or it's a large tear in the world that was caused due to, I guess you could say, the Grisha overextending their boundaries on what they can, you know, try to achieve with their powers, and they created something called Abomination, or Murzost, and that has become a large patch of land which is completely inhabitable. So coming back to the main character, Alina Starkov, she starts off as a cartographer or map maker in the First Army, which is the, I guess you could say, comprised of the military, which doesn't have powers, doesn't have any Grisha members, and the Second Army is the army of Grisha. And you start off, and Alina discovers that she has a power, and it's a very rare power. It's the power to bend light to her will, and she's called the Sun Summoner. And because she has this power, she is rooted from her regiment in the First Army and taken under the wing of the Grisha, who are led by the Darkling, who has the exact, I guess you could say, opposite spectrum of Alina's power, which is to bend darkness to his will, and he is known to be the strongest Grisha there is. So he takes Alina under his wing, and since the Unsea, or the rift that we were talking about, was created by the Darkling, or the previous Darklings before him, he believes that Alina's power is the only way to combat the darkness and heal the rift so that it is habitable and profitable once again. So Alina is now under the influence of the Grisha, and she joins the Second Army instead of the First Army because she has discovered her power. And it's her journey. The first book is about her journey through the Second Army, learning the ways of the Grisha, learning the politics of the Grisha, how different orders and different let's say regiments of Grisha are higher ranked, some are snobby, some are, at the very bottom. And since she's with the Grisha, she is also very involved with the royal family of Ravka, and therefore has to learn politics and things like that, because the Grisha are very high regarded, warriors, and they usually hold very high political positions with a lot of power. So the Darkling, he coaches us, the Alina or whoever the new Grisha are. He has special interest in Alina because obviously she has this rare one of a kind power that can combat the unseen, and because of that he coaches her personally, which makes a lot of other people in the Grisha army, the second army, jealous, because they are also all vying for the Darkling's attention. However, what they don't realize is the Darkling has been feeding them lies. So towards the end of the book, we get to see the Darkling's real character and how, he never intended to heal the rift. He actually intended to use Alina's power to expand the rift and use it as a weapon against other kingdoms that were, against Ravka, because Ravka was a very war-torn kingdom, and since it was in such a strategic location, all the other kingdoms around him, like the Kerch, the Zemeni, and other kingdoms, they are all vying for that piece of land for Ravka. So it has been very war-torn and very, I guess you could say, enduring civil war as well as war outside. So the Darkling, instead of trying to heal the rift, wanted to actually use the rift as a weapon against these other kingdoms to protect Ravka. But obviously this rift is very dangerous, and using it as a weapon against other humans is very unethical. So Alina refuses, and towards the end of the book we see the Darkling actually betray Ravka and go rogue. And that's where we lead into the second book, where the Darkling has gone rogue, and Alina is put in charge of the first or the second army, and now takes a position of the Darkling and ascends into his position, where she is now controlling the Grisha and things like that. So a quick summary of the first book: it's an introduction to Alina Starkov, what her powers are, how she fares in the second army, and then towards the end of the book we see the betrayal of the Darkling, as well as him going rogue and the destruction of the second army, and how Alina rebuilds the second army, and that's what leads us into the second book, which I think I will leave for Petra. So once we arrive at Petra, I'll be discussing the second book quickly, a brief summary, and then hopefully on our way back I'll be able to discuss this book, Ruin and Rising, as well. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We have finally arrived at Petra. It's been a harrowing journey of one day. Well, not really harrowing. I was dining on fine dining cuisine on my cruise, but we're finally here. As you can see, this is a very long canyon, sort of a tunnel that leads to the treasury of Petra, which is the main monument most of you might have seen in the pictures of Petra and things like that. As I said, we will continue the book review here, but I feel it's kind of prudent to talk about the history of Petra, it being one of the 7 wonders of the world, as well as a UNESCO heritage site. I think it's quite important to talk about its background a little bit, and then maybe we can relate it to how the book works. So as you can see, we have arrived at the treasury of Petra, the most iconic monument.
Welcome. Please,
Yes. So again, like I said, it's very crowded, as you can see. And it's quite the view with the treasury here. So, a little background: Petra was built by the Napataean people, which were, as we can see, sorry for the disturbance. There's quite a lot of crowd here, but Petra was built by the Napataean people after their city called Madain Saleh and Al-Ula fell due to a natural disaster. The remaining survivors migrated to Jordan, which was called Al-Sham at that time, and they built Petra. So a lot of the carvings and the building structure and even the religion was migrated from Madain Saleh to Petra, and that's why you'll see there are a lot of similarities between the structures on both sides. Now coming back to, let's move forward a little bit. Coming back to the book, the second book starts off with Alina, the main character. She is put in charge of the remaining surviving Grisha, and the Darkling has gone rogue. So the Darkling has gone rogue, and as we know, he is the strongest Grisha warrior, and Alina is to prepare her defenses and the defenses of Ravka against his army. So the Lance of Throne and the king, as well as the Crown Prince Nikolai and all of his allies, they are in one last-ditch effort to solidify their resources and to solidify their defense against the Ravkan of the Ravkan throne against the Darkling before he attacks. So I thought that would be a great place to talk about a great plot to talk about in Petra, because Petra, another little backgrounder, was also attacked by the Roman Empire actually once their treasury was discovered, because as we know, Petra was very rich. So as Petra was rich, it obviously opened the eyes of other empires towards it, and that's why it was attacked by the Roman Empire and eventually fell near into the Roman Empire. It fell to the Roman Empire and was one of the colonies of the Roman Empire later. So again, the treasury, quite a view, very crowded as well, but I think it was quite worth it, and we will continue on the cruise again. Alright, so we are back on the cruise. I think that we can take this opportunity to elaborate a little bit on the next sort of plot in the book. I had already explained the original plot in the first in the video to Petra, and I think we can elaborate on the plot a little bit more. So I thought we'll take it to my room. A little bit of a change of scenery, a bit of a change of the atmosphere. As you can see, we're already in the lobby, but definitely I think a change of scenery would be welcome. So second book, I had already said that the Darkling has gone rogue and has attempted to attack Ravka. The second book is about, as I said, Alina Starkov and the rest of the remaining Grisha are trying to rebuild their defenses and rebuild Ravka into a state where it can defend against the Darkling, while the Darkling is amassing his own forces to attack Ravka and take control of it. So the second book, it depends not only on Alina herself. We also see how she encompasses and also takes control of many different characters. We're introduced to many new characters in the new installment, the second book, Siege and Storm. We are introduced to what would later become the Triumvirate, which is the sort of I guess you could say the lift is here. I think we'll continue in the lift. So as I said, Alina Starkov is, as I said, was being introduced to many different characters, and along the way, she forms sort of a army, I guess you could say, and a very sort of a committee, a political committee, which I guess would be ruling Ravka until the king was fit to do so. So, as the head of this committee, she is responsible for, again, as I said, amassing the different Grisha forces and building defenses against the Darkling and the armies that are going to attack their front lines. So, and I believe we're almost at our floor actually. So we see how she grows out of her own little introverted shell and takes control of these people. Excuse me.
Going up.
So, coming back to the story. As far as I can remember, because I did read this book a while ago, so definitely, I don't remember the plot as much behind you. But Alina is, again, like I said, she has gained a lot of powers, and she has also taken control of something called a fetter, or an amplifier that, I guess you could say, enhances the abilities of Grisha. And because of that, she's been put in charge, as I've said many times already, of the Second Army. And they, along with David and some other characters that we are introduced to, are now trying to, as you can say, build new devices and new weapons along with King Nikolai and the rest of the team to combat the Darklings, you can say, the Darklings army. So as we know, the Darklings army is made up of what we call abominations or Nichevoya, which is they're soldiers of darkness that the Darkling has created with his own power. And to combat that, as we saw, Alina has the ability to use light against them. So now, as a part of their defense against the Darklings armies, the fabricators and the people of the Second Army are now trying to create a weapon that can amplify the ways Alina's lights can be used. In the first book, we saw that David Kostik, the best fabricator of the Grisha army, had made little discs which allowed Alina to focus her light into beams, sort of like a laser that could blind people and that could allow her to focus her energy. So in this book, one of the I guess you could say offensives against the Darkling was to take the same concept and create a big, huge disc which would allow a huge beam of light like a laser to cut through the Darkling and his armies. And they are innovating many different weapons, such as a machine gun, which King Nikolai, or not King actually, the Prince Nikolai invented. And they are essentially, like I said, amassing their defenses to bear the brunt of the attack against the Darkling. However, later in the book we're introduced to some of the family members of Prince Nikolai, which is such as his brother Vasily, who is the heir to the throne, as well as the king, both of whom are incompetent leaders, unfortunately. And because of that, they commit certain mistakes, which leaves Ravka open to attack. And Ravka is attacked and caught off guard, and obviously a lot of innocent lives are lost, and the Darkling unfortunately takes Ravka. So while he does take Ravka and does take the kingdom, Alina and the Second Army is, they are told and they're forced to flee the kingdom and go into hiding. And that's where we transition into the third book, where Alina is taking refuge and healing her wounds, healing her army's wounds. And again, this entire series is about basically Alina always trying to be on the run because she's always being chased by something or another. So again, Alina's on the run, and again she has to amass her forces for one last final push against the Darkling, which is what we will see in the third book once I get to reading it. So a summary is that Alina, in this book, Alina is taking, charge of the Grisha army. She is amassing defenses against the Darkling, and this is the third book, in case any of you would like to refer to it. Ruin and Rising is the final book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So again, back to the summary. She amasses defenses, but it also shows us the frailty of the human being, how some of the political leaders like Vasily and the king, Lansov, due to their arrogance and their I guess you could say, their pride, they let their entire kingdom fall, and everything Alina and the people had done to prepare was in vain just due to certain arrogances. So this really focuses on the emotions and feelings of humans, the frailty of a human being, how things like pride and arrogance are so important to a person, to the place where he's willing to let go and destroy, let go of and destroy everything just to keep his pride with him, and just to not be proven wrong. So the second book takes a deeper focus on the emotion of humans, as well as a deeper focus on Alina, how she feels, the responsibilities and pressure and anxiety that comes with being in charge of so many people and being put under pressure. So definitely a very good read, and will definitely a third review will be coming soon on the last book once I get to reading it. And yeah, so thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.